Welcome, beautiful, beloved souls. How is your Easter going? Welcome back. As I said, I'm not going to go into the usual detailed introduction. My name is Jem, and you should all know what I do and all know about this channel by now. And again, I want to thank any view and every view I get, and I appreciate loyalty. I appreciate the fact that you may have subscribed. I never push it. I do like comments because comments make me feel heard. So let's get into this one. It's sin versus accountability, a medium's perspective on love. Just before I get into it, I want to explain why I'm pumping out a lot of videos. Tomorrow I won't be here. I'll be having brunch with my beautiful daughter. So I want to put out as many videos as I can because I won't be back for a few days. So let me give you the title again. Sin versus accountability, a medium's perspective on love. Let me start with a question that might rattle a few spiritual teacups. What if sin was never about your soul, but about controlling your behavior? Because from where I sit and from what I've experienced through channeling since 2003, the soul doesn't panic, the soul doesn't shame, and it certainly doesn't keep a tally sheet like some cosmic accountant with a grudge. What it does recognize is accountability. The architecture of fear. Let's talk about how the concept of sin has been used. Historically, sin wasn't just spiritual, it was structural. It created clear rules, clear punishments, and a very effective system of control. Because if you can convince someone that their natural human impulses to make them bad, you don't need chains. They'll police themselves. Now, to be fair, structure in society isn't a bad thing. We do need guidelines, laws, and basic agreements like don't steal your neighbor's goat. But somewhere along the line, guidance turned into fear, and fear turned into shame, and shame became a business model. Sin versus accountability. Here's where I'm going to draw a very clear line. Sin says you are bad. Accountability says you made a choice. Let's look at it. Sin is identity-based. Accountability is action-based. And that difference, that's everything. Because when you believe you are bad, there's nowhere to grow from. But when you recognize you made a harmful choice, you can actually evolve. What my channeling revealed. In the first book I ever channeled, and it started back in 2003, Seeing the Spirituality Behind the Negativity, a menu for the game of life. And later in another book titled The Balance, one idea came through very clearly. This reality operates on opposites, light and dark, kindness and cruelty, compassion and indifference. Not because one is sinful and the other is holy, but because contrast creates understanding. You don't know warmth without cold. You don't recognize truth without deception. So, from that perspective, sin wasn't a cosmic law. It was part of the game design, a human construct to organize behavior, not a soul-level truth. The game analogy, because honestly, it fits too well. If this life is a kind of experience, a learning environment, then labeling actions as sin is a bit like playing a video game and being told, you pressed the wrong button. You are now a terrible human being forever. Meanwhile, the actual purpose of the game is learn, adapt, try again, level up. Not sit in the corner of the map crying because you missed a jump. The problem with shame. Let's get very real for a moment. Shame doesn't create better humans. It creates secrecy, denial, self-hatred, and people who pretend to be perfect while quietly falling apart. They don't say, I want to take responsibility. They say, I need to hide this. And that's where real damage multiplies. Universal love isn't soft, it's precise. Now, here's the part people misunderstand. When we talk about universal love, they imagine something soft, passive, and permissive, like everything's fine, do whatever you want. No, that's not love. That's avoidance wearing a halo. True universal love is actually very precise. It says, your actions matter. Your choices ripple outward. And you are responsible for what you create. But it removes the emotional theatrics of shame and eternal punishment. It doesn't say you're condemned. It says, let's understand what you did and why. From dogma to conscious responsibility. So, where does this leave us? If we strip away the idea of sin, are we just running around in spiritual anarchy? No, because accountability is actually harder than fear-based obedience. Fear says, follow the rules or else. Accountability says, understand yourself well enough to choose differently. One requires compliance, the other requires consciousness. A little sarcasm for balance. Let's be honest. If sin worked the way it was marketed, humanity would have been sorted out centuries ago. We'd all be perfectly behaved, glowing slightly, and never arguing on the internet. Instead, we've got people terrified of minor sins while ignoring much bigger issues like cruelty, dishonesty, and lack of empathy. It's a bit like obsessing over a scratch on your car while the engine is on fire. Bridging fear and consciousness. From a medium's perspective, there's no sense of a soul being dragged into eternal punishment. What comes through over and over is something far more grounded. Reflection, understanding, growth, and yes, accountability, but without condemnation, without theoretical judgment, without a cosmic courtroom drama. Closing thought. So, maybe the real shift isn't about rejecting religion entirely, but about evolving the conversation, moving from I am sinful and unworthy to I am responsible and capable of growth, because one keeps you small and the other hands you the pen and says, write your next chapter more consciously. Thank you, beautiful, beloved souls. I ask that if you are going to leave a comment, please always do so respectfully. Thank you. Please be kind to each other. Take care of yourselves. Love, light, and blessings. And for those who do not know me, my name is Gem Stone, psychic medium and author.